Hey everyone, Black Marla is back with a fresh batch of chilling tales. Enjoy the video. The Frostbitten. Compiled from the Personal Journal of Anna Carter, January 3rd, 10 a.m. On the trail. The first day of the hike. Clear skies, powdery snow, and the quiet hum of winter all around us. This trip was Daniel's idea. His last adventure before settling down. We all laughed at that, but maybe he was serious. Emily's leading the group, as always. She has this knack for finding the right path without needing a map. Thomas is grumbling about the cold, which is typical, but even he can't deny how beautiful it is out here. Oliver's quiet as ever, snapping photos. Daniel? He's lagging behind, singing off key to keep our spirits up. I wonder if we should have waited until spring. The mountains feel different in winter, like they're watching us. January 5th, 3:45 p.m. The cabin. The storm came out of nowhere. One moment we were walking under clear skies. The next, snow was whipping around us like a living thing. By the time we found the cabin, our fingers and toes were numb, and the temperature had dropped to something inhuman. It's not much. 4 walls, a sagging roof, and a wood stove that barely works. But it's shelter. Daniel volunteered to gather firewood despite my protests. "I'll be fine," he said, grinning like always. He didn't come back for hours. When we found him, he was curled up in the snow, his gloves missing, his hands and feet. God, I've never seen anything like it, gray and waxy, blistered like overripe fruit. Frostbite. Emily's doing what she can. We wrapped his hands and feet, trying to warm him slowly. But it might not be enough. January 6th, 2 a.m. Daniel. He's alive. That's the good news. The bad news is everything else. His fever broke, but his hands and feet don't look right. The blisters are gone, but the skin underneath is smooth, almost glassy with a faint blue tint. Emily says it's impossible for frostbite to heal like this. She's right. Daniel doesn't seem worried. He keeps saying he feels great. Better than great, even. But he's not sleeping, and his skin feels cold. Not normal cold. Like ice. Thomas joked that he's turning into the Snow King. No one laughed. January 7th, 12:30 p.m. On the move. The storm passed. We decided to head back to the village, carrying Daniel between us. He argued at first, saying he could walk, but when he tried, he collapsed. The strangest thing happened on the trail. Snow started falling again. Not heavy, just a light dusting. But wherever Daniel's hands brushed the ground, the snow froze solid. Not like frost, but jagged sheets of ice. I caught him staring at his hands, his expression somewhere between fascination and terror. He didn't say a word. January 8th, 9:15 p.m. The village. We made it back. Barely. The locals didn't ask many questions, just pointed us to the inn and muttered something about the mountains. Daniel's resting now. Or pretending to. His hands and feet are completely covered in that icy blue skin, and it's spreading. Up his arms, his legs, he doesn't seem to notice. Emily and I talked to the innkeeper, a wrinkled old woman who seemed reluctant to even look at us. When we described Daniel's condition, she crossed herself and whispered one word: frostbitten. She told us a story, an old legend about the mountain, how it doesn't just kill those who venture too far but claims them, how it leaves them alive, but not human. January 9th, 1 a.m. Whispers. I woke to the sound of cracking ice. Daniel was standing by the window, staring out at the snow. I swear I heard him whispering, but when I asked what he said, he turned to me with this smile. His breath froze in the air, even though the room wasn't cold. January 10th, 11 a.m. It's spreading. Emily and Oliver stayed behind to watch Daniel while Thomas and I visited the church. The priest wouldn't speak to us, but we found an old journal in the library. It described a man who returned from the mountains years ago, with frost-bitten hands and a craving for the cold. By the time the villagers realized what he was, it was too late. He'd frozen half the village before disappearing back into the wilderness. When we returned, Daniel was worse. His eyes, they're not brown anymore. They're pale, like frost-covered glass. January 11th, 3 a.m. The attack. Daniel's gone. I don't know how to describe what happened. One moment he was lying on the bed, quiet and still. The next, the room was freezing, frost crawling up the walls, our breath turning to ice. He stood, but it wasn't Daniel anymore. His skin glittered, jagged and crystalline, and his voice, it sounded like the wind through broken glass. He said one thing before he left. The mountain is calling. January 12th, 6 p.m. Back to the cabin. We're going after him. The villagers begged us not to, but we don't have a choice. If we don't stop him, I don't know what he'll do. But it won't stop with us. The old woman said there's a way to break the curse. Something buried in the cabin where it all began. A shard of ice older than the mountain itself. January 14th, 9 p.m. The end. I don't know if anyone will read this. We found Daniel in the cabin, or what was left of him. He wasn't human anymore. Ice sprouted from his body like branches, his breath a storm of snow and frost. Thomas, he didn't make it. But Oliver and I found the shard. It wasn't just ice. It was alive, pulsing with cold. We destroyed it and the cabin collapsed in an avalanche, burying Daniel. I think the curse is broken. But sometimes, in the silence, I hear the whisper of snow. The mountain doesn't forget.